pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Is there anyone here for the 2-minute open comment period?
Yes, Gary Markenroth here from Waite Park. I want to talk to you about something that just happened to me on Friday that I wasn't really suspecting, but it caught me off guard. And it's a big issue in our area right now that I'm seeing based on what I'm looking at. I put my house up for sale a couple weeks ago. Got an offer, come to an agreement, everything was going along smooth until last Friday. And so I talked to a number of realtors, I talked to a banker, and I find out that there's a trend going on in our area here. And they're saying it's in the District 742 school district issue. And that's the appraisal value of homes coming in the District 742 district are coming in low. In other words, I'm assuming that the councilman and the mayor sitting in front of me are citizens of and residents of Waite Park.
Most certainly.
All right. Here's my question to you. Would you be willing to give up your equity because of what's going on in a school district where homes are being devalued due to a situation that was brought to our city by our city's welcoming city scenario and the League of Minnesota Cities and the globalist agenda to bring refugee resettlement in, which the mayor said I should never talk about at a city council meeting. But the situation is deteriorating the value of our homes. And it's making it impossible for someone to build equity in a home. I talked to a lady today that her son bought a home to rebuild or refix up, and he has to sell it as a negative just to get out of here. This is the fault of city management all the way around. Not only Waite Park, I'm talking St. Cloud and the whole schmear. You look at St. Cloud, what Kleist did with this Costco thing, he screwed the people. And I want to know if any of you people that are residents of Waite Park are willing to take a kick in the hind end when you have to sell your house based on what you're figuring on, maybe you're going to get equity so you got some future in your life. Because it's a big deal. And the last thing I want to talk about is a couple months ago I put this on the screen and I was told through an email that you have to go online and you can look it up yourself. No, I asked you guys to put that up so that all the people can see in just in simple line form how much of our money is being spent on what projects. That's not too much to ask at all. And it really irritates me that I have to look at losing money on property to get out of here when it could have been prevented, because this started 19 years ago in a business that I had when I warned people 19 years ago what was coming to this area, and everybody blew it off. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else here for 2-minute public comment? Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, review and approve council agenda.
Motion to approve?
Is there any additions?
No.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Consent agenda. Item A, approve change order number 2, amphitheater phase 1. Item B, staff report seasonal hire. Item C, staff report Shauna Johnson employment agreement. Item D, staff report summary of Shauna Johnson review.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Regular agenda, Zabinski Billboard rezoning, CUP. John?
Mr. Mayor, I'll try to keep this brief. Just to put it into easy context, this request is actually very, very similar to a request we saw last summer from an adjacent landowner to put up several billboards As you may recall, some time back, we expanded the billboard corridor district to include the stretch along I-94, basically the southern frontage of the city. That opened up the area for allowing billboards. The request in front of you tonight is kind of threefold to allow for the ultimate approval of 3 billboards there. We require a conditional use permit by our standards, which is pretty standard fare for billboards, or as they're called in ordinance, off-premise signage. The variance request is to actually drop the height of the billboards, not to increase, which is kind of the norm, but to drop the height to get it down to a lower level because of the overhead Excel lines that kind of impede the development there. And the third request is actually for rezoning. That is something that is mandated by MnDOT, that they only allow for billboards in a commercial zone district. That doesn't pose an issue by what I'm recommending, because we do see that area ultimately developing under our land use plan as commercial in nature, so I don't have an issue or concern with rezoning that stretch. If approved for the rezoning, the parcel would be administratively split, basically to get a portion off that would be sizable enough for development in its own right, but also to prevent having to rezone the entirety of the property. All in all, very similar in nature to what was previously reviewed for the neighbors there. The neighbors did ultimately move forward on 2 of 3 billboards that they've already constructed. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the request. There was some discussion amongst the neighboring property owners. I reflected that in the report. They are considering moving one of their billboards after they identified some issues with their proposed locations. We would have to review and approve that separately under a separate request from them that we've not seen yet. I don't think that should have any bearing on the request in front of you. MnDOT has its own standards for MnDOT placement that also have to be fulfilled. If either the applicants, either the Zabinskis or the adjacent property owners have an issue with MnDOT, they have to take that up with MnDOT. But I don't see any reason to not move forward with this request as proposed. I would note that even though we're reviewing this tonight, it is possible we may re-review it in the near future. The applicants have identified a location on their eastern side that they're considering amending a little bit, just after some further review on their part. But my determination was that was significant enough that that should be re-reviewed by the Planning Commission and then come back to the City Council as an amendment. So just wanted to put that in front of you, that we may potentially see this back here again if it is approved this evening. I'd recommend approval of the 3 requests as outlined in my staff report. I won't read them all, but if you have any questions, I can certainly open it up, and I know that the applicants are here tonight as well. All in all, I think that they've followed this essentially the same process we outlined previously, and they've worked with me for some months now in this proposal, and I think we've got it down to a pretty good proposal here.
Council, any questions?
When we change or rezone this, what are the setback requirements if in fact they wanted to redevelop a portion of that property into residential or other type building out there?
You mean for notwithstanding the billboards themselves, but you're asking about kind of the long-term development?
Right.
Oh, in that zoning district, I don't recall the setbacks offhand. It is large enough, though, that we factored in the setbacks to ensure that it's a buildable parcel. MnDOT doesn't want you to have to rezone just a small sliver. That's not something they look towards, because they see that as a spot zone, and with good reason, because it would be. When we rezone, I want to be sure that we're looking at creating a buildable parcel by both the rezoning action and the administrative lot split, so I did factor that in. This area is meant more for as it's zoned right now, BPC two, that's more for, kind of, retail business park area, not so much houses. I'm sorry, I don't recall the zoning district standards of that, but, it would be buildable. Might be a little bit tight, but it would be buildable for a long-term development. They'd have to work around the billboard, of course, but.
I can't remember looking at this, it's just for one sign? I think it was three signs?
Three, yep,
Three
scattered,
signs.
scattered across, kind of put across, either side, western and eastern, and in the middle. Static signs only, no request for digital signs with this.
And they're gotta be 1,000 feet apart.
Yes. Yep,
So
and
if
they did factor that in. The same surveyor actually did the work, that did the work on the property, the neighbors to the west. So they worked off those locations as they were previously approved. So that's why you may see a future request at some point, either sooner or later, by those folks to potentially amend their location and or request a variance, based on some soil conditions or claimed things that they think that they've found. But I don't think that bears any relevance to this request, because they've worked off of the previously approved locations as we approve them.
So when the neighbor is gonna relocate the one they want, are they gonna have room enough to relocate where they want it to then, without having a variance?
I don't know at this point. They do have an approved location, so they could build at that location any time. That's fine. But if they want to move it, they could be impacted by this proposal, by the westernmost location that they're looking at. And that might limit their ability to move it too much.
And they're
or
aware
at
of
all.
that.
I'm sorry?
And they're aware of that.
They're aware of that. They don't necessarily agree with it, but that's
Yeah.
the application
that's-
process. It's kind of first to the
Yep.
starting gate here.
Yep, okay. Any other comments, questions?
I'll move to approve sorry about that. I'll move to approve the rezoning as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
You bet.
I'll move to approve the conditional use permit with the recommendations from the staff.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. That should take care of those two then, huh?
What about the variance?
Oh, wait,
I'll move to approve the variance as presented.
I'll second that.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. All right, item B, council meeting guidelines.
Before you, you have a draft of some guidelines that were put together based off of our conversation that we had at our last work session, which essentially what it does is it puts, I'm trying to find it puts some processes together. A lot of it outlines some of the things that we're already doing. Kind of talks about how our meeting dates are put together, work sessions. The change that we're considering with this is public forum that we've had, moving that to the work session, having that start at 6:15. So any items that we would have for a work session that would all be done with by 6:15, and then taking input like you normally have done here. You would do it in that setting instead. And so it would still be the 2 minutes that they would have, and then allowing for an opportunity that the council could then, at their meeting, could provide a summary of those things and provide direction as to any items that would come up during that time, whether or not you wanted to have further discussion with that, either at a council meeting or a work session, or if you wanted staff to do further input. So it gives you some opportunities to do that. There are times when we do get a lot of requests that, you're kind of wondering whether they, where they should go, and this would be a good venue to be able to provide them opportunities to do so. And I think the other thing just outlines kind of the council's procedure as far as how you approve agendas. and work sessions. Typically, the work sessions, anyone that has something from the council or staff, we put those on our work session agendas. And then anything that goes to a council agenda has actually got to be approved by the majority of the council that's here. So it really just outlines the process of how we do things. It's your policy, so you have the options to make any changes or do what you want with it. If you want to approve it, you can. If you don't, if you want other wording in it, it's yours.
Council, any questions?
I'm gonna move to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. All right. Review and approve bills.
I'll move to pay the bills.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. I have a letter here from St. Cloud Area District 742. Too bad my man left. Anyway, they're acknowledging the donation from the city of Way Park in the amount of $5,000 from charitable gambling for the basketball courts and basketball courts basically down at Discovery School, to move them down there and to help provide space for kids in the summertime to play basketball and soccer. So that's all I have.
I believe somebody in this room was also recognized by the school district for, an award that he received this past week or so. And so Mayor Miller, I just want to congratulate you on the award from the school district. I don't remember exactly what it was called, so you might want to help me.
Want me to tell you?
Yeah. He's not one to toot his own horn, so I figured I should help him with that because I think it was a nice accomplishment, so.
Good job.
I don't know what to do with the $10,000 check though yet. That's what I haven't figured out. So, yeah, it was for civic involvement with the school districts and whatever. But that also, I mean, that in my mind, that the
word
whole
was distinguished.
distinguished civic award.
Civic
There you
award.
go. Yeah, I forgot that main word. Yeah.
Wow.
It really reflects the city of Way Park. I mean, you know. So
And I would add too that Officer Tony Resnicek was also recognized at that. It was a Partners in Education event last week, and Tony was also recognized for his work at Discovery Schools.
Wonderful.
and the chief was the keynote speaker.
Oh,
Perfect.
so when's our next meeting?
Okay, so that was the one thing I didn't get a chance to mention, but, so there's a couple of things in the works. What we can end up doing is we could just have the third meeting in June, the third Monday in June. We can move everything to that. We're in the process right now of doing police officer interviews, which we would be bringing the potential candidates at that meeting for consideration. There may be some things with the amphitheater that could get approved at that point. Terry also has some pieces to that. So that is the possibility. We wouldn't need to have a meeting on the 3rd of June, and I know I had mentioned possibly the 10th, moving it to that third meeting in Monday, that third Monday in June, which can you give me the date,
The
Frank?
17th?
The 17th actually works better for police, and it works better for some things that are coming up on the amphitheater, if that is something that you guys can
So
make
the
work.
meeting in June you're suggesting is just
Just-
one.
Just the one meeting on June 17th.
I'd be comfortable with that.
And then there were some things, Rick, that we had with Ron Eitenauer that I thought we could move back to that meeting and do that in the work session. So we would be able to avoid having to have another meeting for that was what my thought was.
Okay.
If that works for you, that's what the plan will be. I try to, if I can put them all together, I try to do that. So I appreciate your patience with trying to figure that out. But that will work best for us for that meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Terry? John?
No, sir.
Chief? Bill? I didn't ask you yet.
Oh, well, I'm going to answer anyway.
Paul? All right, we are adjourned at 6:49.